All right, here's our expressions quiz review. All right, so we need to fill out this table, fill out the missing pieces, and show our work underneath if we need to. So they're asking for three things. They're asking for exponential form, expanded form, and standard form. So the first one, exponential form, is already written, which is 7 squared. Remember, our base is our big number, which is our 7, and that's what's being multiplied, and our exponent tells us how many times it's being multiplied. So this would be 7 times 7, and our answer for standard form would just be what is 7 times 7, and that would be 49. Okay, for our next one, you can see we have 6 as our base, and it's being multiplied 1, 2, 3, 4 times, so 6 to the 4th power. So we need to multiply 6 times 6 times 6 times 6. I'm going to pause the video. You go ahead and do that and check it if you need to in just a second. All right, so when I multiply it out, I get 1,296. Okay, for the next one, it's a little tricky. It's asking us, it's given us our base, and we know that the standard form, or the answer is 64. We have to determine what the exponent is and then write it out in our expanded form. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of start guessing and checking. I know that it's 4, so I'm going to start with 4 times 4, because that would be to the 2nd power. Well, 4 times 4 is 16, so it's not going to be 4 to the 2nd power. So let's try 16 times 4. 16 times 4, that gives us 24. And then we get 64. So that's actually to the 3rd power because we just added one more 4. So 4 to the 3rd power, or 4 times 4 times 4, is going to give us our standard form of 64. All right, now let's do order of operation problems. So remember, order of operations, we're going to follow PEMDAS, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, with parentheses first, then exponents, then we're going to multiply, divide, add and subtract. Oops, that's supposed to be a plus sign. Add and subtract. And remember, when we multiply or divide or add and subtract, we're going from left to right on both of those. So sometimes we divide before we multiply, sometimes we subtract before we add. So if we take a look at this problem, we are going to start in our parentheses, so you should be doing first 8 minus 3. Well, 8 minus 3 is 5. So now we're going to bring everything down. 2 cubed times 5. All right, order of operations tells us next we are going to do exponents. So we're going to do this 2 cubed. Remember, this is not 2 times 3. It's 2 cubed. Let me use a pen. 2 cubed is really 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is going to give me 8. So this will be 8. Now I'm going to bring down everything else. All right. So now we are going to look, and what we're going to have to do next is multiply. 8 times 5 is going to be our next step. So 8 times 5 gives us 40. Then bring down our plus 5. And then the very last step here is pretty clear. We are going to do 5 plus 40, which will give us our final answer of 45. All right, and this one we're still following order of operations. So I'm just going to write it off to the side just so I remember. So we don't have any exponents. We don't have any parentheses, don't have any exponents. So we're actually going to be starting on multiply and divide, and we do have some division here. So we are going to divide 24 divided by 4, which is going to give us 6, and we're going to bring down everything else in the right order. Now all I have left is adding and subtracting. So as when we're between these two, remember we go from left to right. So if we look, kind of like we're reading a book, we're going to actually subtract before we add here. So we are going to take care of our 11 minus 6, which is going to give us 5. And then 5 plus 8 is actually the only thing that's left, the last step. And 5 plus 8 is 13, which is our final answer. All right, again, following PEMDAS. So first, we do have parentheses. And remember, once you're in parentheses, you still have to follow order of operations. So in the parentheses, are there parentheses? No, there are not. Are there exponents? No, there are not. Is there multiplication and division? Yes, we can see right here that this is multiplication. Remember that dot means multiplication. So we are going to do 12 times 2, which is going to give us 24. And then we're going to bring down everything that we did not use in the right order. Okay, we still have to work in our parentheses because we still have some numbers there. So next, we don't have any more multiplication and division, but we do have some addition here. So that's going to be our next step, which is 24 plus 3, which is going to give us 27. We're going to bring down everything else that we did not use. Okay, and the very next step would be to do our subtraction here. 27 minus 9, which is going to give us 18. And we can drop our parentheses now because we've made it all the way down to just a single number. And then what we have left, we've got exponents and we've got subtraction. So since there's no more parentheses, we're going to start back up from the top. We're going to do exponents next as our priority. So 4 to the third power, remember this is not 4 times 3. This is 4 to the third power is really 4 times 4 times 4. So 4 times 4 is 16 times 4. We actually just did this in our slide before. Gives us 64. So we get 64 minus 18. And then that's going to be our very last step to solve our problem. 64 minus 18 is going to give us our final answer. So off to the side. We are going to have to borrow here. That becomes 14 and this will become 5. And we will get 46 as our final answer. All right, so this is a little different. It's asking us to solve order of operations and then compare using greater than, less than, or equal to. So we have to solve, though, to figure out which one's actually greater than the other. So first problem, we are going to work in our parentheses and do our exponents. That should be the first thing that you do. Remember, that is not 2 times 4. That's going to be 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 times 2. 4 times 2 is 8 times 2 is going to give us 16. So 2 to the fourth power is actually 16. Now I'm going to bring down everything else. Keep your parentheses, times 3. So still in our parentheses, we have to follow order of operations. And the next thing that we need to do is going to be division. 8 divided by 2. 8 divided by 2 gives us 4. We're going to bring down everything else. Keep your parentheses. Okay, still have to work in our parentheses to follow order of operations. So we have to do 16 plus 4, which is going to give us 20. And then we can drop our parentheses because it's just 20 in there. And now we have our last and final step, which is 20 times 3, which is going to give us our final answer of 60 on this side. Now let's take a look at the other side. Got to do the same thing. We have to solve it. So here we are actually still working inside of our parentheses first, right? Parentheses comes before exponents. So we're going to do 2 plus 5, which is going to give us 7. And we've got 7 squared plus 6 left. So really we don't need those parentheses, but that exponent is super important. We have to do 7 squared here. So remember, that does not mean 7 times 2. That means 7 times 7, which is 49. So this is going to be 49. Let me highlight. That was 7 squared. Okay, and then we're going to bring down what we didn't use, which is our plus 6. And then 49 plus 6 is our last step, which is going to give us 55 as our final answer here. So I'm looking at 60 and 55, and I have to compare which one's greater, less than, or if it's greater, less than, or equal to. And the correct symbol that I would use would be the greater than symbol because 60 is greater than 55. Okay, for these are expressions. Remember, they don't have equal signs, and they want us to identify the different parts. So I always like to start these by making my train, starting at the caboose, remember? And we are drawing our lines. The plus signs are separating our terms. So if you start from the 2, once you see a plus sign, draw a line. You go to the 4, once you see a plus sign, draw a line. And I like to highlight, well, we'll get to that one in a second. let's go ahead and start talking about what terms are. Remember, terms are all of the things in the expression. So we're just going to list everything here. 7y. Don't forget there is an imaginary 1 in front of this y. I like to add it in there and write it just so that I don't forget that it's there. So 1y is another term, 2y, 4, and 2. Those are all terms. Like terms is where I like to use my highlighters and highlight different things. Remember, a like term has to have the same letter or variable, and it has to be raised to the same power. So if I look, 7y has a like term, 1y, and also 2y. Those are all like terms. Okay, they can be combined, which we're not doing that right now. We're just identifying that they are the same. Now, I do have another set of like terms. These are just numbers. Those are also considered like terms. So 2 and 4 are going to be like terms. So we have two different sets of groups here. We've got our 7y, 1y, and 2y. Those are like terms. And then separately, I'm going to put and. We have another set of like terms, which is going to be our 4 and 2. And those, remember, it's because they don't have a letter at all. Since they both don't have a letter, they are considered like terms. All right, coefficient. Remember, coefficients, those are our co-pilots. Those are next to our variables, our numbers next to our variables. So if you look, we've got a 7. That's with one of our y's. A 1 is with one of our y's. And then a 2 is with one of our y's. So those are going to be our coefficients or our co-pilots. Our constants, those are the ones that are constantly alone, so they have nothing else with them. So that's going to be our 4 and our 2. Those are called constants. And then if we look, variables are going to be the ones that are the letters that we have. And the only letter that we have here is y. You don't have to write it 3 different times. Y is the variable that we are working with in this expression. Okay, for this next one, same thing. I'm going to box it up. Starting at the 4n, once I see a plus sign, I'm drawing my lines to separate all of my terms. So if I look, my terms here, remember, is everything included. We've got 11n, we've got 3, we've got 8y, and we've got 4n. For my like terms, remember they have to have the same letter or no letter at all. So I do have an 11n and a 4n, so those would be like terms. And then my 3 has nothing else that is similar to it, so he's actually solo. And my 8, same thing, there's no other y's, so that guy's actually solo as well. So my only pair of like terms I have are my 11n, 11n, and my 4n. Those are like terms. Coefficients, those are my co-pilots. So I've got 11, 8, and 4. 11, 8, 4. Those are paired with my variables. My constant is my one that's solo, which is going to be my 3. He's got no one with him, so my constant is 3. And then variables here, I've actually just got 2 variables. I've got n and I've got y. All right, last one here. Same thing, box up your terms. We're still identifying the parts. Your terms are separated by addition signs, so all of these are terms. 3x squared, 2x, x squared. I'm going to go ahead and add my 1 in there so I don't forget, and I'm going to write it, 4x. All right, my like terms here. So remember I said that it has to have the same letter. Well, it also has to be raised to the same power. Since this is x squared, I have another x squared. Those are going to be like terms. And then separately, a different set of like terms would be my 2x and my 4. So x squared and x are not like terms, but x and x are, and x squared and x squared are. So have to make sure that it's raised to the same exponent when you're writing like terms. So my pairs are 3x squared and 1x squared. That's one set. And then separately we have 2x and 4x. My coefficients, my co-pilots, I've got a 3, I've got a 2, I've got a 1, I've got a 4. They're all coefficients. 3, 2, 1, 4. I don't have any constants. There's nothing that's alone here, so that's going to be none. And then my variables, I'm only going to put x. Even though I have x squared, we're only identifying the letter or the variable. So x is going to be our variable. And that's it.